Moving on to our next segment, stars for our next segment, we have the most futuristic thought leaders who are here to brainstorm on the future of banking is digital. Futuristic leaders, of course, as and when we introduce you, we'd love for you to come on up and very brief answer on a very brief question. So we're going to start off with our moderator, Mr. Vipul Sharma, the founder and CEO at Chqbook. Can we have Mr. Sharma on stage with us? Sharma sir, so a very interesting question, very brief answer, no explanations, just the answer. So, सवाल ये है, let's say you live to be 600 years old. On your 500th birthday, what futuristic gift do you want your family to present to you? Futuristic, so सोचते हैं, let's be futuristic. What gift do you want in your 500th birthday?
Yeah, maybe another 500 years.
Wow, okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. And our next leader, can we have Mr. Mukesh Gupta, General Manager, Luminous and Ecommerce, Schneider Electric, to kindly come on up. Mr. Gupta, same question. Live to be 600 years, 500th birthday, what futuristic gift do you want?
Maybe a return ticket to Mars.
Return ticket. Oh, so you already traveled to Mars. हो सकता है, yes, there can be possible. Fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, very interesting session awaiting you. Gentlemen, stage is all yours. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Glad to be here. I'm actually Gurgaon based, but I was in Bombay, and I think it's a great place to. I always latch on to any event where there's something about the future of banking, because that's a topic pretty close to my heart. What we'll do in this session is, we actually had a moderator, Ritesh, who was supposed to be here, but he's down with COVID, so he couldn't come. So it's going to be more of a dialogue between the two of us. And we would like to keep some time for questions. And of course, the pace of change in BFSI is extremely fast in India. And I'll sort of start by introducing myself and the company. So I've spent about 20 years in banking at Citibank, HDFC Bank, IndusInd, and started Chqbook a couple of years ago. Chqbook itself is a neobank for small business owners. So kirana stores, chemist shops, hardware stores, and so on and so forth. Usually sole proprietorships with a turnover less than 40 lakhs. So pretty interesting problem statement around how do you kind of bring the entire banking stack. And what we do is we actually have current accounts, insurance, and lending for these customers. On our app, we have about 1.5 million downloads. We have about 250,000 revenue-generating customers. We process about one application every 10 seconds on the Chqbook platform. And we've been obviously revenue generating from day one, unlike a lot of other neobanks you might have read about in the news and so on and so forth. Very large segment that we're addressing, about close to 6-7 crore customers in the country, growing at a very fast pace. MSME as a sector contributes to about 30% of India's GDP, so substantial, obviously, input coming from there, and usually underserved. Be it, we've not seen any difference between a customer's experience in a Delhi or Bombay versus a Valsad or a Tirupati, right? So the services requirements that they have is still similar to what kind of services you and I had on banking maybe 15 years ago, right? Where you still have to go to a branch and so on and so forth. Today, of course, none of us, who are salaried, actually need to go to a branch and get stuff done. But for most of my customers, it's a reality. So we're kind of trying to change that. And what we do in this session is talk about some of the ways in which we are looking at sort of leapfrogging this customer to a scenario where he's in a cooperative bank, walking into it, getting his transactions done, or taking, let's say, a month, 2 months to get loans, or getting loans from a money lender, which is a big reality for them, to a scenario where it's actually all digital, very simple products, in the language that they want, plus having access to all the pieces of the banking ecosystem, he can actually focus on what he does best, which is run his business. So I think we go there in that direction in this discussion. I'm happy to introduce Mukesh as well. Over to you.
Thank you, Vipul. So I'm Mukesh Gupta. I've been with Schneider Electric since last 15 years, managing distribution channel, e-commerce, APC, Luminous. So we are not here just to talk about products, right? I mean, everybody knows about products. So basically, what we are looking for right now is talking about the future that is digital, plus what exciting things it brings out. So from Schneider perspective, we are also talking about few pointers like, see, everything is going digital. Now the demand, say you're reducing your latency time. So everything has to come into picture when you're talking about digital. Now everybody talks about edge. Usually banks are using edge. But then with the increased demand, increased customer experience, to have a better customer experience, you need to move into the technology towards a space where you give a good customer experience, plus also you have a good IT infrastructure. So basically, to move into that stage, we also would look into the sustainability, where we talk about achieving your sustainability targets. We would talk about crediting your carbon credits. I mean, enabling, utilizing your carbon credits. Also, we talk about our micro data centers, which help you into reducing your retail space of server rooms. We are asking about actually removing the entire server room and fitting into, say, a 42U or a 18U rack, where you not just save on space, but you also save in terms of your efficiency of the product, plus the total ROI. Now, I'll just give you an example. Other than this MDC, a bank approached us to reduce their overall cost in terms of the UPS or whatever they had deployed. So we gave them a solution for a lithium-ion battery. And we are not talking about right now, we are talking about maybe 4 years back, where lithium-ion battery was not that, commercially viable. But we gave them a solution which was a bit costlier than what market provides. But you look at the savings or the ROI what he deduced. One is 1/4 of reduction in the space actually where a UPS is housed, plus 1/5 of reduction in the cost of recharging those batteries in terms of your energy consumptions. So this is what we talk when we talk about giving a solution rather than just giving a product. Then we also want to talk about something called as remote manageability, wherein you are saving on your downtimes, where, say, example, a banking or a retail customer has number of branches, and every time there is a downtime, there will be a downtime, right? And it is cost, at the end of the day, that is cost for you, plus a user or a customer experience which goes bad. So we are talking about a solution wherein your IT equipments connected inside can be managed and monitored sitting at the head office. You can predict what failures could be in future, plus you could also manage. So what we say is, if you can monitor it, you can manage it. So it is as simple as that.
Sure. No, I think, when I was at HDFC Bank, we used to obviously have, branches all over the country. And now when I'm at Chqbook, we have, obviously it's digital, we don't have branches. But I was just looking at the solution Schneider has outside. And one of the interesting things was in our office, we do have a small, we are on AWS, but we then do still have a small data room which has racks and air conditioning. And I think it was a pain to get like 2 split ACs put up, right. Get the whole piping done, and then you have to basically cool it, and you have a whole UPS structure, right? So, and of course, from a branch POV, having these sort of spaces set up and then having sort of qualified personnel to manage it in every branch is a substantial cost. So I think one question I have is how do you see that changing when you're looking at sort of these micro data centers or the the specific solution or the problem that you're really fixing for the branches or for the banking ecosystem.
Vipul, as I've told you, first, the basic point here was that real estate is cost.
Right.
I'm saving more than 1/10 of the server room space actually. I mean, we are not even talking about having a dedicated room for your IT equipments. You can use it wherever you want. I mean, it is just like a rack, you can house it across. I mean, you do not need a dedicated split AC as you said. Second most important point over here is manageability and efficiency. See, manageability in terms, like Vipul, you rightly pointed out, I mean, for every branch, there will not be a dedicated technical expert, or sending technical expert over there would be a cost for you. It's an operational cost, right? So we are talking about monitoring all of these things sitting at one location. The ROI, if you see, other than the actual equipment, would be far more higher than actually what we are showing it on table in terms of technicalities of savings in electrical consumption. Because we are also talking about saving real estate as well as the operational cost.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a huge plus point. I think, for example, if you have like sort of this separate rack, then you have to have a whole room. Whereas I think the solution that they have is actually far more compact, when it comes to actually setting it up.
So I have a question for you, Vipul, actually. So how do you see Chqbook providing an alternative to conventional MSME lending, and what is the problem you are trying to solve here?
Right. So the reality of sort of lending, and all of us use these people. We all go to Kirana stores. We all order from a restaurant, sometimes small, sometimes large. Now, of course, we don't know whether they are dark restaurants of Zomato or Swiggy or the actual restaurants. But still, there are lots of small restaurants. I think a lot of corporate people, and I think I have also harbored a dream at one point to start a shack in Goa. I'm sure it resonates with a lot of people here. So yeah, that's one of the things but these are all hard businesses. And they have good margins, but you need to run them very efficiently. And because there is a lot of cash involved, even today, interestingly, after demon, cash in the economy has actually gone up. It's 14% now compared to 11% after demonetization. So the reality is there is still cash. And so what happens is for most of the, let's say you go to a cloth store in Kalba Devi, right? A lot of them are actually taking money from a money lender because it is very available. He can go in the morning, he'll get 1 lakh rupees, 5 lakh rupees, 10 lakh rupees in cash, and he can pay it back at the end of the day, he can pay it back at the end of the month. But it's very expensive, it's typically 3 to 5% flat per month, which means that if he's taking 1 lakh rupees, he has to pay 5,000 rupees every month as interest. At the end of the year, he has to pay back 1 lakh rupees, which means he's paid 1,60,000 rupees in a year. But the economics work out because what he'll do is he will buy stuff for 1 lakh and he'll probably sell it for 120 or 140 or sometimes even 2 lakhs. So it makes sense for him. So that high predictability is something that the large money lender ecosystem in India has given. It's bigger than the banking formal ecosystem in the self-employed sector. What we're trying to do is figure out how we can, one, get the customer a ledger, right, which is a current account. And banks typically don't open current accounts of these customers. So how do you get a digital current account for the customer so that he actually has a ledger where he's recording most of his entries and it's a simple to use current account, no minimum balances, etc. The second part is that we are looking at giving the confidence to this customer to be able to lend to him. So today we do about 30 crores of lending a month. And most of it is, either small ticket BNPL, which is tech-led. So customer goes to a metro cash and carry, he can buy, 100 kilos of 𝐄𝐝, so 100 kgs of rice, and then pay by checkbook, which is basically like a BNPL product, but for traders. The other product is business loans and what we call needle mover loans, which means the customer can take a loan of 3, 4, 5 lakhs, which actually allows him to modernize his store. Not like consumption loans. So those don't help. So we are saying we want to help customers modernize their stores, get into an ancillary business. I'm sure you've seen during the pandemic or after that, stores which have small grocery stores and then they've started a small delivery business, right? So they've got food. In Gurgaon, you have Maggi and aloo parathas and all that stuff. They set it up. They'll get 1 or 2 people from their village to come and run it. So there's no cost and there's income coming from them. And they'll start delivering in the area, or they'll give it to the people around them. So those actually help the customer, increases earnings. It's a real benefit for these customers. So that's, I think, the way we are approaching it. Is we are saying that at one level, you need to be able to give the confidence that he can actually take a loan and have the right kind of underwriting mechanism to do it. And the second level, we are saying build ledgers in the form of current accounts, which are super easy to open, takes 5 minutes to open it, and then start transacting so that we can actually pre-approve loans and start giving those loans. So I think these are sort of the 2 pieces. And then insurance is the third piece. We have our own insurance broking company, it's a subsidiary, and through that, we are able to give insurance to customers so that, and we saw this during COVID, we had customers who died and they didn't have insurance, and literally the entire effort the breadwinner has put in for 10 years just washed away, right? And the kids become Ola drivers or Uber drivers and so on and so forth, or Zomato delivery guys. And that's just heartbreaking. So giving them insurance actually helps them sustain in case of a bad situation. So that's how we are looking at this ecosystem.
So I have one more point to ask you over there. So most banks and NBFCs actually are making a foray into the space for merchant services and lending services, which is like Chqbook uniqueness. So, yeah. And also, how do you see the market in next 3 years? I mean, where do you see this market in next 3 years?
Yeah, so I think, I wish more banks were there in this segment, but unfortunately, most banks will prefer a customer who has a turnover more than 1 crore, because that's the customer they can lend to. So that's typically most of the larger banks do that. There are people like AU Bank, Bandhan, who have a good sense of this customer because they're actually coming from microfinance. So this is a graduation up, and they understand this customer, and we want to have more of those people. But the credit gap is massive. It's over $1 trillion. I mean, just to give you a perspective, we work with Jio Wholesale. They're looking at modernizing stores, and they're talking about saying that, okay, if you want to modernize 5 lakh stores, right? Each store modernization costs 2 lakh rupees. So that's 1 lakh crores of capital that's needed just to modernize 5 lakh stores. And India has 1.5 lakh Kirana stores. So there's no way we can do it on our own itself. So we need more banks to participate. NBFCs are there, which do cater to this segment. Again, the gap is still really wide. But I think the issue with NBFCs is that they kind of rely on the data that's available. And I think one of the challenges we've seen is that you actually need to create the data, the ledger, right? And that happens when you open current accounts at scale, and that's a problem that we want to solve. So we've seen that more than 50% of my customers actually have cooperative bank accounts. And more than 50% of my customers actually use a savings account to run their business, which is just not something that you see in a more advanced economy. Couple of years down the line, how I see it is, if you walk into a store in Hong Kong or in Germany or Switzerland, you'll actually have a very sophisticated store owner. He's got a credit card, he's got a checking account, he's ordering his stuff on credit, deliveries happen on time. I think that's the paradigm that we have to move to, and I think we won't take a long time. It'll happen in the next 5-6 years, really leapfrog this customer there. I think what the interesting thing is, instead of, for example, salaried customers took like 15 years to go from an environment where they had to go to a branch for almost everything to a situation where they don't have to go to a branch for anything. I think this MSME customer will probably take another 5-6 years. And that's, I think, what technology can do to really speed up this process. And that's what's great about it. And of course, then your earnings get compressed in 5 years instead of 15 years, and that obviously is great for business. So I think that's how we see the entire ecosystem.
Great.
Yeah. So I think, and of course the other aspect is that, I think hardware, and I think some of the stuff that you guys are doing, plays a big role. I mean, like when we started, we were on AWS, and we have been on the Mumbai region from day one. But I think the reality is that as we scale, we're going to need a lot more data centers, more of distributed access, more of fail-safes, and there are companies already who are looking at saying that, okay, they want availability of data in very, very smaller geographies, right? So from that point of view, I think, Mukesh, if you can talk about how you see the future, 5 years, 10 years down the line, in terms of the hardware itself, or how Schneider is influencing it.
Okay. So taking your point ahead, Vipul, see what happens is with more and more IT being redistributed. I mean, instead of coming in. So see, edge was always there, as I've already said. But then taking it to another step, we have hardware which is available with us. We have prefabricated, pre-engineered micro data centers which are available. So when I say a prefabricated, I mean I'm talking about a rack, I'm talking about a UPS, I'm talking about cooling, I'm talking about power distribution, all housed into one equipment. Now top it up with an EcoStruxure suite, which we have. With this, you're managing your equipment sitting remotely. Plus also now I've made everything redundant over here. My cooling becomes redundant. I have environmental monitoring, which I can monitor sitting anywhere across the globe. So basically what we are talking about is reduction in terms of IT specialists at remote locations, but giving a zero downtime.
Which is very important. Trust me, I mean, the number of times, and startups are like crazy. So like I'll get involved in things like how long is this pipe required to get the cooling done, right? So, but then we'll have situations where, one of the AC is not working, the other is working, right? So you got to figure that out. So if you actually have something which is sort of integrated, you can remote manage it, and fail safe, it is actually a huge blessing.
Yeah. So also these prefabricated or pre-engineered micro data centers actually are available into three verticals. So we have one for industrial applications where we provide dust filter, we provide water filters for it. We also have it for commercials, and we also have it for IT. So separate ones, and they are available in different U sizing based on the actual requirement at your branch level. So it is available from 6U up to 42U.
Wow, that's amazing. Right.
Vipul, I have one.
We're running out of time.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe open up for questions if there are any. We'd love to have any kind of comments or questions. Came here to learn from you guys. Actually, any questions, guys? Nothing? Okay.
Yeah, we have a question over there.
Sure.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now it's working.
Check. Yeah. So we talk a lot about the Bharat digitization journey. So what's your take around the rural fintech journey, or how can a fintech scale for who is building for the 80% of the Indian customers? That's the Bharat side and not the India side. What are your thoughts and comments on that?
So I think one of the fallacies in India is that because UPI is super successful, we are very digital as a nation. We're not, right? So UPI is an incredibly superior product, like globally one of the top 5s, right? In terms of the scalability, the architecture, all of that stuff. So I think in Bharat, the challenges, of course, 5G might get announced on 15th August launch. You never know, that changes things, and it will, right? You will have faster data availability. You will have to come up with far simpler solutions. So a lot of the stuff which I'm sure you've talked about earlier around APS, remote ATMs, all that is super, super relevant, right? I think the other aspect is how do you kind of make sure, so still in rural India, the packet loss issue or the data connectivity issue is real, right? You will have situations where network will just go off, like for a day, which is unbelievable in a place like Bombay, right? So that is something that is more about infrastructure and so on and so forth. But I think on the product side, in India, we need a lot more innovation. And what that means is that like fingerprint APS, great innovation, right? So you need 5, 6 more of those kind of things to really be able to get customers going. I think a lot of the Jan Dhan account and the fact that direct bank credit happens for a lot of the schemes, and it actually does happen. Right, is a big step, because again, the idea is to be able to ledger, bring everything on a ledger, right? That's the whole concept of blockchain, all of that. And I think accounts are a great way of a ledger. So if you can convince the rural population to start showing up, their transaction in a ledger, and that's going to only happen if it's very simple to move things around between ledgers, which is between accounts, then you would have solved a lot of the problems, right?
Leaders, as much as we'd love for this conversation to continue,
I would just like to add a point over here. So a similar thing what you said also applies to the IT hardware side of it. If you look at it, see, most of the MNCs who manufacture IT equipments, they manufacture it based on the global environment and global specifications, while rural India needs a different, we have products which are India for India, which are built for Indian environment, maybe the humidity, the temperature around. So yes, a lot of work over there also for digital, means alone Schneider cannot do it, but yes, even IT players, major players also have to look into this when it comes to infrastructure. While you are using, even for say a simple desktop, the temperature or the humidity or the dust around in those regions also affects your overall performance. So yes, your question was relevant, but yes, we are a bit far away from actual efficient India in terms of rural. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. A big round of applause for our amazing leaders, and of course, the gentleman who asked this wonderful question. Thank you for the wonderful question as well.